Hey, what's up? Hello everyone, welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and today we are diving into some specialized category predictions for the month of May. These are our last predictions that we are going over for this month. We've done everything else, so if you want to hear our last thoughts before we get all this new information from the Cannes Film Festival, go out and check our channel. Subscribe, because we're going to be doing these each and every month, updating. And if you like what you hear here, it definitely helps us out if you drop a like. Without further ado, let's dive right into this. The category that I feel like a lot of people love to talk about because there's a lot of, populist choices in this category this year. I see one of them right there in the background. Best animated feature. So Matt, why don't you kick us away with what I think is your number one right back there?
I wonder what my number one could be. I sure wonder if I think that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is going to win Best Animated Feature. I do. Look, I have inside intel that this movie is better than the first one, and if it's better than the first one, ooh boy, ooh lord, this is a big boy contender. Into the Spider-Verse was a movie that released so late that people didn't even know what hit them. And I actually think that if that film had a little bit more time to run up support, it could have actually ended up being a wider contender across more categories. It could have gotten into song, potentially adapted screenplay, in a miracle world, maybe even Best Picture. Now, Across the Spider-Verse, the buzz around this is insane. People are saying that this is going to be better than the original. Now, if it is, the original film got an 87 out of 100 on Metacritic. This one very likely could clear 90. And if it clears 90, then I think we have to be open to the possibility that this is not just a Best Animated Feature contender. This is a very possible Best Picture player.
I know I'm still a little hung up on Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio last year underperforming, so my predictions for this movie aren't as big as you are, but I would really hope that this movie is better than the last one, and I would love to see it outperform and get into adapted or get into song, score, wherever this movie can find its way into. I definitely have that my number one as well, but I'm not to the point of putting it into another category.
The thing that we're going to see with this one is just like, does it get passion from the right groups of people? Because I could see the same crowd, and this isn't because this is a multiverse movie, it's because it's a very youthful, energetic movie, but I could see the same crowd that really fell for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I could see that same crowd really going for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But in my second place spot, I have Hayao Miyazaki's How Do You Live? Does this break my heart that this is my number two now? It sure does. I would love for this to be the winner. I think Hayao Miyazaki deserves another animated win. I desperately want Miyazaki to be in the race, but that said, we won't know whether the film is truly a masterpiece or just an old man making a movie about a book that he liked as a kid until July. So after July, we'll know a little bit more about whether this movie could actually genuinely be a contender beyond animated feature. But, if The Wind Rises couldn't do it, I don't know why How Do You Live absolutely has to, other than just me blindly hope-dicting that my favorite filmmaker of all time will win another Oscar. So I'm gonna try to step back from that personal bias. Then I have Elemental from Pixar. I'm not sure how I feel about how this movie looks, but early word says it is very, very good. It is one of only 3 Pixar movies to play at the Cannes Film Festival, and it has been a mark of quality for every single one of those films. That said, if this comes out and it kind of gets like an response like Onward did, then I would replace it with a different Disney movie, which I'll talk about a little bit later.
I'm a lot higher in Elemental than you are at the moment. I do have it at my number 2, and I don't have it winning, but it's a close number 2 at the moment. Like you just mentioned, every Pixar movie to go to Cannes was a major contender. We had Up got in the Best Picture. We had Inside Out, was probably number 10 or 11 that year. However, here with Elemental, I don't think it's in winning contention just because of how big the buzz is around Across the Spider-Verse is at this moment, but I do think it's a very firm, very solid number 2. The buzz is already very good on this movie, and I'm sure once the movie comes out, it's going to be a very big box office hit where the audiences do come out and do support this movie.
Number 4, I have Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget. This is Netflix's big push in this category this year. They always have a major contender of some kind, and this year it is most certainly Chicken Run. Chicken Run is actually a funny one because this is the sequel to the movie that is the reason that this category exists in the first place. They put in animated after it came shockingly close to a Best Picture nomination because it landed a PGA nomination. It was very, very close to getting into the Best Picture 5. You know, I think that there is a legacy that's appreciated here. It's from Aardman Studios, which the Academy always loves. I think Aardman has practically every single time gotten a nomination, even for Shaun the Sheep Farmageddon, which I remember people telling me I was crazy for having in my animated predictions, and then it got in anyways. I am gonna ride with Aardman, I'm gonna ride with Netflix, and I'm gonna say this is a lock for this category.
Aardman gets in. Netflix always finds a way to get at least one movie into this category, so I feel like, well, this may not be really that top number 1, 2, or 3. 4, I think, is a great spot for it because it's going to be last year, like Puss in Boots. It's going to be that movie where people underrate at first, but it's always in that 3-4 range throughout the rest of the season.
At number 5, I have The Peasants. This is a fully painted animated movie from the director of Loving Vincent. It looks stunning. There's a trailer available for the film. It seems like it's going to be one of the most beautiful, one of the most talked about animated films of the year, especially in the artsy scene. And you know, there's always 1 or 2 movies in here that's a little bit more elevated, a little bit more artsy. Could that be How Do You Live and nothing else? It totally could, but I see a world where I think we could get 2 more challenging, more grown-up films in the top 5 for animated. And The Peasants does look really, really strong, especially because Loving Vincent had a nomination a couple years ago, and this looks better than that film did. So yeah, I'll go through the rest of mine a little bit quicker. At number 6, I have Wish. Only one of the 2 Disney movies will get in this year. I don't think Wish looks very good, though I do think it's going to win Best Original Song. I think it might feel like a bit of a contrived film from Disney because the entire reason for this movie to exist is for Disney to say, it's our 100 years. This is the story of the star that Pinocchio wished on. This is our wishing star movie. It's not selling me on the premise. It feels like a bit of a cash grab. But that said, the music is gonna be good. Fully convinced that Ariana DeBose is going to sing that song to an Oscar win. Hearing the song, I can see this being a huge hit. But the movie itself, I don't think it's going to be in here. I think it's a Frozen 2. And at number 7, I have TMNT Mutant Mayhem. This movie looks so fun. I am gonna love the hell out of it. It's very possible that it's just so good that it makes it into the top 5. This is a stacked year. Any other year, I'd say easy top 5. Last year, easy top 5. Year before, easy top 5. This year, no. This is hard top 5. Then there is the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Look, do I think this is getting in? No. At the end of the year, is this going to be 6, 7? Probably, because it's going to get a Golden Globe nomination. It's going to get a PGA nomination. They're going to award something that is one of the most successful animated movies ever. Will the Oscars go for something like this? No, they won't. It's not in my top 5, but it is worthy of being in the top 10 because that's where it's going to be at the end of the year. At number 9, I have Robot Dreams. This is premiering at Cannes. It just got picked up by Neon. It looks very funny, very sweet. That's why I think it has a shot, but I'm not going to call it a huge contender. At number 10, I have Suzume, which, if we're looking for those artsy, more adult movies, like How Do You Live, like The Peasants, Suzume could slide in there. Now, I didn't really like Suzume that much. I know I'm in the minority on this, so that's why I don't have it at the moment. Also, to rattle off some others, Nimona from Netflix, I don't think they can get 2 in, and Chicken Run is definitely in. Spellbound from Apple TV+, if this one has great music, it's very possible that this could slide its way in as a contender. Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, I don't think this looks very good, but that said, it's possible that it picks up some steam through the year if it's surprisingly great. It is from DreamWorks, and they are on a bit of a hot streak. Then they shot The Piano Player. It's a movie from Cuba, but that said, it missed Cannes, where it was supposed to play, possibly in competition, and without that competition slot, I'm not as confident in it as a actual contender here.
The Mario case is really interesting to me because I would love to know, when's the last time that a anime movie got PGA, it got Golden Globe, and still missed out on the Oscar nomination? Because normally like those movies still find their way in.
The Croods 2. It's like that type of movie. You know, there's... or Sing 2. Those big, audience-driven, kids movies, they usually can get in Golden Globe, PGA, and then they look like they're gonna get in, and then they just don't because they don't have the reviews for it.
That probably makes sense there. I wouldn't have it in my top 5 either, but I think where you have it is a pretty good spot because I think Mutant Mayhem could surprise, but also with how stacked this year looks, I don't think it has enough room to get in, and I really do think it's between Wish, Peasants for that last spot. It's just, do they go with the more adult or do they go with the more populist type choice? And I think it will be a real test to see how voters really vote. Then I think Spellbound has a small shot. Alan Menken's doing the music. Apple TV has never really succeeded so far in this category, even though they've tried and they haven't got close yet. So I think that's one to wait until the movie actually comes out before throwing it into your top 10.
With Spellbound and with Wish, it just depends on how much the music hits. And that said, with Wish, the song that Ariana DeBose sings is stuck in my head right now. It's a likely winner in Best Original Song. And if that's the case, then the momentum for another Oscar win? Ooh, maybe I should have this in my top 5 for animated, but I just don't think the movie looks all that great.
Well, that's when we'll have to wait a long time to know because that doesn't come out until all the way on Thanksgiving. But a category where we get to know a lot about these movies in the next coming week is going to be Best International Feature, where a lot of these movies are opening at Cannes, including my number 1 in this lineup, The Zone of Interest, out of, I think it's Poland, UK, one of the two.
No.
I don't know if there's been an official designation yet, but everything we've heard about this movie just screams it's going to be very interesting, it's going to be very different, it's going to be very bold, and that has been the mainstay of this category for the last few years, just something that can be captivating, that people can cling on to. It just seems like it's something that a lot of people will spark a discussion, and I feel like that will help this movie, even if it's a topic a lot of people do not really want to or really seek out to talk about. The conversations around this movie will really help elevate it outside of this international feature nomination, where it could be a 3, 4, 5 nomination movie once we get to Oscar morning.
The fun thing about recording, so we're recording on May 18th right now. This is going to release after The Zone of Interest has reactions out. At this point, we don't know if these movies are actually good yet because we are doing this pre-Cannes reactions.
Regardless, like I mentioned before, even if this movie isn't the greatest thing on paper, the conversations this will spark will help carry it and keep it into the conversation for the rest of the year. Because even the people that despise this movie will give this movie free promo. And in this category, that usually works out in the movie's favor. I know last year didn't really work out for Bardo, but in other times it has worked out for the movie's favor. Number 2, though, I think it could be the possible spoiler of Zone of Interest is not a just knock out of the ballpark hit. That's El Conde out of Chile. We know that the Oscars have been receptive to Pablo Larraín movies. They just haven't given him the recognition for his movies. But the acting performances or the craft categories in those movies usually get nominations, and I feel like that can continue here with El Conde. This has a very great shot at being a top 3 contender in this category, where the winning is still a little suspect to me just because of how off-putting sometimes his movies can be for some audience members. However, this movie will have a different angle because it's going to lean more into a little bit of a comedic side. At number 3 is a movie I think that could be a big shocker out of Cannes. That's La Chimera from Italy, Alice Warwalker. This movie I think has 2 paths. It either going to get unanimous praise or it's going to severely underperform. And at the moment, I'm not sure which one it's going to be. We'll probably know by the time this video is posted. So you can let us know down in the comments, like, hey, this is it or this is not it. But the poster just came out. I think the poster looks very interesting.
Ooh, yeah.
Everything I've read about this movie seems very interesting. I think it has a very interesting premise with the archaeology and everything like that. It has recognizable faces in front and behind of the camera. So it's at my number 3 right now, but who knows? In the next 2 days, so they can jump up to number 1 or it can go all the way down to like 8 or 9.
This top 3 is, I think, the correct top 3. Any way you shake it, one of these, I think, will be the winner. It's also very possible that one of these could be snubbed, like Decision to Leave was last year, because I'm sure we would have said the same thing about Decision to Leave at this point.
Well, you mentioned Decision to Leave, which really leads me to my next spot, because I think this is the spot where the movie could get snubbed. And at the moment, I have How Do You Live at number 4 out of Japan. We saw Flea get in, but also we've seen other movies in the past struggle to get this nomination, and I feel like there's a chance that this movie could be a little bit overhyped for people, and some people are like, oh, it was good, but it wasn't that good. I think it's still going to be safe in terms of a nomination, but at least all the way out here, middle of May, this seems like the one that could get snubbed, and if Japan doesn't pick it, they have another option of Monster, which did just premiere at Cannes, that got rave reviews. People are saying this is amazing. Koreeda has another hit on his hands. However, I'm not sure that Japan will pick him. I think they'll go more with How Do You Live. However, yeah, Monster, How Do You Live, one of those movies will be the Japan pick, and I think that will be the one that's right here in that 4, 5, 6 range where it's the surprise snub, or it's one of our last ones in, but I don't think either of those movies are in the winning contention at this very moment. And my number 5 pick is out of Senegal. It's Benal and Adama. This is a director's first feature that is played in competition at Cannes. At least to me on paper, that screams that this movie has to be pretty good. So I'm picking that as a, surprise top nomination at my number 5. It is checking off a box from a non-European country, because usually we have 2, if not 3 of those in our international feature lineup, as well as having either 2 or 3 Cannes movies, and this would make number 3 my current predictions at the moment, because I have How Do You Live being Japan's submission over Monster.
I like this lineup a lot. I think that this top 5 is as good as it gets at this point. We haven't seen a lot of these movies premiere. Now, in terms of Monster, one thing I will say is if Monster gets submitted by Japan for the Oscars, Koreeda will be one of very few directors to be submitted 3 times by Japan for the Oscars. It actually has not happened in this century yet. So I think it happened with like Akira Kurosawa, but even then I'm not 100% certain about that. So I don't know if they would submit him again rather than give either Miyazaki or someone completely out of left field a shot. I think this looks really good though. Benel and Adama, you are just safe predicting someone who's a debut in Cannes competition. That means it's really special, and Senegal has never had a nomination before, despite being a very famous filmmaking country.
I think you bring up a great point about Japan, how they could just pick someone random, because that's the fun in this international feature category is we don't know what countries are picking. We can kind of just guess what they're going to pick based off of big name filmmakers. And number 6, I have 4 Daughters from Tunisia. When we had our last international feature little predictions, like, hey, this sounds fun. Why not throw it here? The title, that is, not the premise of the movie. It's going to stay here at number 6 for kind of a mean pick at the moment, just because I'm not feeling really great about anything else. We have About Dry Grass is at number 7 out of Turkey. It's premiering at Cannes, but it has a super long runtime, and I don't know. I mean, that worked for Drive My Car, but that usually is kind of an off-putting thing for some voters. We have Fallen Leaves at 8. The Peasants that you mentioned over an animated feature at number 9. I don't see them nominating 2 in 1 year. And then we have Totem out of Mexico at number 10, while they missed out for Bardo last year. Mexico has a pretty good track record of having at least one film in the conversation they just don't always get in.
I think 4 Daughters is much more than a meme pick at this point. So just to tell you what the film is, because this might push it up a little bit for you, it is a documentary hybrid movie. And the story follows a family in Tunisia, a woman named Olfa. She has 4 daughters, but 2 of the daughters have suspiciously gone missing. This is a very true thing. So Olfa plays herself, and 2 of her 4 daughters play themselves. And then they've cast 2 additional actors to come in and take over the spots of the 2 missing daughters. It sounds really interesting, a little bit like Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal. And like you said with About Dry Grasses, he is not a filmmaker that makes stuff for Oscars. And I know you could say that with Drive My Car. This guy's stuff is very distant, very disconnected. It's not emotional at all, and I think if you make a long movie that gets into this category, it has to have some emotional pull, and I can guarantee About Dry Grasses will not. This will be as heady and clinical and cold, thought-provoking, but just not emotional. Fallen Leaves is a really strong contender. I actually think I have that in my top 5 at the moment, just because I think Aki Kaurismäki makes movies in a style that will very much register with the Academy. He's been nominated in the past, and I could see it happen again, but we're gonna know a lot more about this category in 10 days' time.
Like we've mentioned numerous times already in this episode, we are recording before most Cannes movies have screened, so we're just going off of some, general feels now, but by the time this episode's out, we'll probably have a completely revised top 10 here. But now moving into a category where a lot of these movies have already been seen because they premiered at Sundance, we have Best Documentary Feature, so do you want to run us through what your top 5 is at the moment?
I will, and I've actually seen a couple of these movies since, and I can say with confidence at this point, I have seen 20 Days in Mariupol, and this movie is winning. I don't see an avenue for anything else. This is one of the most vital and important pieces of journalism that I have ever seen. It captures the first 20 days of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This film follows a journalist as he just films the invasion as it takes place over 20 days before evacuating. This is one of the hardest movies I've ever had to watch. And that's why it's going to win. I just don't see an avenue for anything else. I don't think that this is a year where something light and frivolous like My Octopus Teacher can swoop in and prevail. This is such an important film. I think this is a documentary we're going to be talking about as one of the foremost documents of the Ukraine war. That said, it's dangerous to be a documentary frontrunner, but it's such an important film that I don't think it's as shakeable as something like Apollo 11 or like Won't You Be My Neighbor, which were very good films, but they weren't films that you looked at and said, I have to watch this because this is a document of our times.
So you have a clear top number one, but what are you filling the rest of the category with here?
Well, yeah, after that, there's some room. And then I've got Beyond Utopia. I haven't seen this film yet. I hope to very soon. It is one of the most acclaimed films out of Sundance this year, and it is about North Korea and about people escaping and emigrating out of North Korea. I don't see this being more important than 20 Days in Mariupol, though some people will probably say it's a better film. Then at number 3, I have Bread and Roses. This is a film that is produced by Jennifer Lawrence. It is premiering at Cannes this week, and it's an Afghanistan film which is about women underneath the Taliban's rule currently. It's going to be one that I think will educate as much as it connects emotionally with people. I also think that this is history in the making as well. Just like with 20 Days in Mariupol, the Taliban retaking control of Afghanistan is one of the greatest tragedies of the past 5 years, and I think Bread and Roses will really, really connect with people. I want to thank Arno for pointing this film out to me and drawing my attention to it. Then at number 4, I have The Eternal Memory. This one's a little bit lower than it was before. I have seen this film. This is a Chilean film. It is about a TV reporter who was very well known for covering Augusto Pinochet, and now he is suffering from Alzheimer's, and this film follows him and his partner as they struggle through his dementia and his loss of memory. Meanwhile, the film also talks a lot about collective memory and erased memory. There's a lot of really great stuff about this film, and clearly a lot of people adored this out of Sundance. But that said, I don't know if it fully draws the connection between collective memory and dementia the way that it would like to. It is a charming film. The director did just get nominated for the Mole Agent in 2020, but I don't think that means it needs to get nominated here. I could see it being nominated and possibly being a win contender. I could also see this missing out on the category altogether. Then at number 5, I have The Disappearance of Cher Height. This is a film about a sex researcher who vanished, basically, and all of her writing kind of vanished with her. I also haven't seen this one yet. I really hope to very soon, but this one sounds like one of these Sundance movies that could be a strong contender here. But really, I'm going to say my slot 5 is a blank spot where I wait for something to play at TIFF or Venice will be my slot number 5. But to round out my top 10, I have at number 6, A Still Small Voice. This is a very fascinating, very tense film set in hospitals in New York City. Then at number 7, The Deepest Breath. I would have thought that this would be a lot higher, and it was a lot higher until I saw it. This is A24 and Netflix co-producing a documentary about free divers. It tries to kind of capture that free solo breathless feeling. I think the archival footage use here is a little bit less interesting. That's kind of why I have it a little bit lower. It could pop up if it's a huge deal on Netflix, but if it's not being talked about on Netflix, don't count on it. Then I have Iron Butterflies at number 8. This one is another film about Ukraine, but that said, it's getting mixed reactions at best. I have not seen this one. I was supposed to, but I missed the screenings, sadly. So I don't have a ton to say on this one. Number 9, I have Smoke's on a Sisterhood. Heard great things about this one. It does not have a hot topic around it, though, which means that it might be a little bit harder for it to get in to the Oscars 5 because it's not really about anything super important. It's apparently just a pretty good, feel-good documentary. And finally, at number 10, 7 Winters in Tehran. This film played at Berlin. I got a chance to see it at Hot Docs. It's a film which parallels a lot of what's happening in Iran right now. This is a story about a woman who killed the man that raped her, and she was tried for murder and was killed by the Iran state. It's a very tragic story. The form of the movie is not as impressive as the story. If this gets in, which I think it very much could get in, it could be shortlisted. It's going to be because the story is so powerful. But the film itself, I don't think captures the power of the story itself.
So with all that being said, that was our specialized predictions here today. We did an animated feature, international, and documentary. As always, let us know down below, what are some of your bold takes with animated, international, or documentary? We would love to hear them. But until next time, my name is Dyl.
And my name is Matt, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.